Welcome to the Raymond Select Board meeting for February 9th. Unlike last month, it is a beautiful evening without snow. First order of business is minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any suggestions, corrections? All those in favor? Opposed? 4 with 1 abstention. New business. Joe, I'll ask for a little guidance here, but under item...
Make a motion, table, item 3A.
Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. So our first actual item is the Sebago Lake Rotary Club, permission to hold the annual Sebago Lake Rotary Ice Fishing Derby in a boat? Is that what we're going to ask for, Ingo? Would you go step up to the microphone?
Volunteering because our leader is not here yet.
It's okay. I know that you expected that you weren't going to be first, but I'm sure you can do it.
My name is Ingo Hartig, and I'm a resident of Raymond, and I'm representing Wyndham Rotary, part of Sebago Lake Rotary. We respectfully request that we can hold our fishing derby this year, even though our application is late. We totally apologize for it because we dropped the ball.
Ingo is so good.
Yeah,
He really is.
at least you're honest.
Yeah,
I screwed up.
Short and to the point.
You forgive him immediately.
Ingo, what are the dates this year? I understand it's moved.
It has been moved from the 27th to the 27th and 28th of February.
Hoping for ice.
Ice derby?
Ice instead of ice balls.
Now we're still working on it. We ordered some cold weather in next weekend, so we're hoping at least that the May will freeze over. Thank you.
If it's not on Sebago, what are your...
The fallback position is the Cumberland County Derby. We will then fish the ponds and smaller lakes instead of Sebago. And that's going to be canceled, of course.
Right.
But we're still holding the, if we can may, the polar dip is still scheduled.
Is there any ice on the beach at this point?
Yeah, at this point we have maybe 200 feet.
200 feet of ice and wind, huh? Okay.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Questions for Ingo?
Well, I think I have a question.
Could I make a couple of comments? The
You go
policy can be...
step right up, George. Introduce yourself. Say where you're from.
Yeah, I'm George Bartlett from Raymond. Most of you know who I am. Been around quite a while, almost as long as Ingo, although maybe not quite as long. The polar dip can be held regardless of ice conditions because a lot of places, matter of fact, we're the only polar dip I know of that cuts a hole in the ice and the people jump in. Most of them cut a channel or they run into water and so forth. So the polar plunge, which actually benefits Maine Children's Cancer, and they're the ones that do it under our auspices, that can be done regardless of whether there's ice or not on Sebago. And that raised over $50,000 last year for Maine Children's Cancer. And that is a big deal. So the other things we're hoping to have, if there's not enough ice to go fishing on Jordan Bay, and in the past, if the lake doesn't freeze, but usually Jordan Bay will freeze as long as the wind doesn't break it up beforehand. That's happened a couple of times, which is why we now fish Cumberland County. So there are options and whatever. I would suspect if there's no ice, the crowds down there obviously are not going to be as big and so forth, so it isn't as much of an issue. But I just want to make it clear that the polar dip is one of the things, even if we can't do fishing, the polar dip is one of the things that raises a lot of money for Maine Children's Cancer and like that. The fishing from the boat, we checked with the wardens, and they actually said that it's not illegal to take a boat out on Sebago and fish. We didn't know that up until about a week ago. So that isn't illegal to do. I'm not sure I'd want to do it, get my boat in now, but anyway. So,
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Joe, you had a question?
Yeah, for Don. Don, can the town handle it without the application in place? And I mean, we've done this for so many years. Should be all set to go.
Yes.
Okay.
We have had the, of course, the pre-planning meeting. We've done all of that work, so, we're good to go.
All right.
Mike?
Yes, Lonnie?
I guess the only question that I have is that, did you have prior year issues that you've done steps to take care of them for this year, or seem to be status quo? You think you've hit all of the items that, may cause an eventful situation, or?
I cannot recall any major issues. There was at one point the question about alcohol and serving alcohol on the ice, but we are not doing so.
Don?
The biggest issue I can remember is when you have ice that's unsafe. And so then the question became, who has the authority, who has the responsibility, who decides, or can anybody decide that the derby is over? And I guess the derby piece you decide, but access to the ramp we decided was a town issue, and so I guess by default I got a call from Kathy Goslin. We closed that 1 year for safety, but we learned that the state IF&W really is advisory only, so it's between the derby and the town. So when you have bad ice and calling the event, it would be between the derby and the town, I guess, in terms of you on the event, us on the access point.
Well, the wardens last year, because
Please
of the blizzard-
introduce yourself so everybody
I'm
knows who
sorry.
you are,
Deb
why you're here.
McPhail. Hi, Deb McPhail, president of the Rotary Club and everything else. But anyways, last year we closed it on Sunday because of blizzard conditions, and that was because the warden service came to us and said, listen, it's not safe out there. We really recommend you closing it. So we did.
Right, but they're only going to be advisory. The derby's going to officially call the event, and then in terms of
Yeah.
the access, the town owns the property, or
That's right.
it has the lease on the property, so
Right.
the town controls the access. So we would close that, is what we did on the time we had bad ice.
Right.
But safety is always our first concern.
But that's the only event I remember of any really major significance.
Other questions from the board? Anybody from the audience? Anybody else? Questions, comments? There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor? I'm voting against this on procedural matters. It's February. The thing is in 3 weeks. I can't, in good conscience, vote because this is not the procedure. You're going to get your application. You're going to get it. We've had trouble going all the way back to when Tom Noonan, you host the Derby here and you forget about the town that you're hosting it in. I can't in good conscience vote from that standpoint. So it is a 4-1 vote. I hope you are successful. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
See you in September next year, or October?
Yes.
We could probably do it in August if you'd like.
I'm good, George. That would be good.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Raymond Community Forest update and funding request. John Rand is here, and I believe he brought help with him. They have a presentation for us. So John, please, you guys can go sit, introduce yourselves, and stand and introduce yourselves, however you want to do it.
Good to see everybody. John Rand, Raymond Conservation Commission, and with me tonight is Sheila Bork, who's been on the Raymond Community Forest project and has been a huge help in bringing us forward. Sheila put together the packet here, and she's going to probably run you through the slideshow and speak to some of the slides. I'm going to give a 2-minute overview of where we are before Sheila drills down on it a little bit. Just to say that we've come a long way looking through the notes, putting the program together tonight from our first visit with you folks in 2012. I think we gave updates roughly every year. Had Luneco involved from the start. There's certainly a key player in the project to date. We moved forward with warrant article, I believe, last year at town meeting relating to the forest, and had positive support from the Raymond Community Survey that you folks put out whenever that was, in the fall of 14, I think, early in the winter last year, perhaps. strong support. We had 3 big events that broadcast the forest project. We marched in the 4th of July parade, which was a good time, and spread a lot of pamphlets around to the good people on Main Street. We had a fun time down at the farm property with a jazz event, and had about 120 people down listening to some jazz music out in the field, raised $4,500. We had several surges of private fundraising that were successful. You see in your charts that Sheila will go through how the private sector has stepped up on this project. And we've also had a couple of informal walks around the property to show folks both the mountain and the lower trails, the opportunities there. So I will let Sheila run through the slideshow. I think the 2 big items for tonight that we want to plant a seed on are I remember when we were here probably a year ago or so, we talked about a contingency request for funding to help close the gap for the project. We're going to talk about that. But we also want to talk about the ultimate ownership of the property. All along, Luneco's been flexible in either taking ownership of the property in the end, or giving that ownership to the town of Raymond to run with. And so I think we want to have a brief discussion about that, and we have some thoughts about getting community input on that. So that's the 30,000-foot view. I'll let Sheila go forward here, and we'll swap places and look forward to some questions. Or maybe you can go from right there.
Hi, Sheila Burke.
Sheila, you can sit down. You'll be
Okay,
fine.
is that cool? 63 Hancock Road. I've been involved with the Raymond Community Forest now since 2013. And I've recently taken a position on the Loon Echo Land Trust Board. I've been thrilled to participate in this project. I discovered the approach to conservation here in Maine when I happened upon the celebration of the closing of Hackers Hill, and ran into the folks up there, and one thing led to another. So to actually participate in a project that's going to add I think something very special to Raymond has been great. So I know you got the presentation in your packet, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on a lot of detail, but if all goes well here, that's not going to work, right? Okay, just there's a picture from the top of the mountain just to give you a perspective. That's looking down on Crescent Lake, taking the right over to the Tenney, and eventually into Panther Pond. Again, I think the benefits have been extolled on this project a lot. The permanent protection, particularly of the quality of Crescent Lake and the waters downstream to Sebago Lake. This 350 acres is key to the Crescent Lake watershed. The construction of an extensive public trail network that would offer easy to moderately difficult terrain. When you get to the back of the property, if you've come across Coneska Road, you can see that granite face. That's a little moderately difficult in my opinion, but I'll show you a trail map in a minute. You'll see a couple of slides tonight. The scenic view from the top of Pismar it's just breathtaking. And so we want to preserve that view. Protection of a large forest, we feel will bring long-term financial returns to the community through future forest management. And I sincerely believe that it will provide a destination point that can bring people into the Raymond Business Corridor. Just to give you an idea, that green is the 350 acres. The outline in red is the actual Crescent Lake watershed. So you can see that's a big part of what's feeding into Crescent Lake and on downstream all the way to Sebago. Here's where we stand as of this month with our budget. Our total estimated expenses were $680,000. Kevin Hancock has been extremely gracious They give us a discount right out of the box of $109,000. He's also given us an extension till June 30th of this year. We were supposed to have the money raised by the December 31st, but that didn't happen. And you can see the large chunks of things. What I want to draw your attention to is the private gifts made or pledged in writing. So we're at 643 of the 680. We're about $32,000 short with June 30th to get there. I want to emphasize, as John did, we've raised almost $145,000 from individuals and associations right in the Raymond area and around the forest. That's 206 different individuals and 9 community groups. The Crescent Lake Watershed Association, the Panther Pond Association, the Crescent Woods Road Association, Camp Agawam, Raymond Waterways, and I also want to say that the support has been tremendous. I've been at every road association in the area, every community group that has anything to do with the watershed or the forest in their area, and they've all been extremely gracious. We've had donations from a silent auction where a young lady who was 6 years old bought a fondue pot for $10 and checked with me, I think, about every 30 seconds for 2 hours. Did she win? To some generous donations. So I want to stress, we will at the end of this match or exceed the Land for Maine Futures Grant that is still pending. Another nice view from the top of the trail, looking on down to Crescent Lake. Where are we right now? We've begun survey work, so all the butters are beginning to receive communications regarding boundaries, etc. As John mentioned, we've done some preliminary trail walking. We have recently just submitted a trail grant in the amount of $35,000 that's pending. And of course, we've got to continue to fundraise to close that gap. Just to give you an idea, the outside reddish boundary is the property. You can see kind of towards the top right, that's Kineska Road running right down the middle. The purple, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you did get it. The purple is a proposed trail map at this point. So if you've been on the property, the lower level is fairly graduated. I mean, it's great for snowshoeing, walking, that kind of thing. When you get across to the other side of Kineska Road, it gets pretty challenging. And rising up, you can see the level markers, how it shows the topo, gets higher and higher as you go up onto the mountain. We've walked this, we've identified some essential plant life. We do have a couple of small streams that need to be taken into consideration. I've actually met with Chris Hansen about coming out to walk the property to make sure that our proposed trails and closeness to any surface water is properly accounted for, and we make sure that we're doing everything necessary to take care of that.
Before you move off that one, Sheila, I just want to point out there's an existing trail that is used by folks on ATVs and hikers as well, that comes in from the east, if you will, from that easternmost corner of the property, and it comes straight out to the view location.
It's up off of Mountain Road.
And the access is from Mountain Road. So there's certainly an existing access that we would plan to continue and certainly not shut off or change. We'd want to keep that the same.
And you can see 2 little black dots on the map towards the top. Those are existing logging lots. They've been cleared.
Log yards.
Yeah. And we're considering one of those in a natural type of area for a parking lot eventually. Where do we go next? So as John mentioned, we're here to request the disbursement of the $50,000 that was already approved. And again, tonight we'd like to request your consideration for an additional $10,000 towards our closing costs. All additional private gifts raised will go towards management planning, like completing the surveys and getting going on the trails. So that's the first item we'd like to throw out for just general discussion, that 10,000. And then the second one here is, as John mentioned, the possibility of the town of Raymond assuming ownership, management of the forest in the future. And again, as John said, Loon Echo is perfectly fine with retaining ownership of it. That's not an issue, but one of the things that Loon Echo likes to do, and we have done in many other projects, is to gift the property back. So when you talk about that, let's talk about the next thing. That's from the lakeside. So that's sitting out on Crescent Lake, and you can see the granite face over there on the right, and that's the forest, some of it anyway. So, okay, so if the town were to consider taking over this property, what are the expenses? And what we've done is we've taken a 10-year time frame. Trail maintenance is estimated to be about $200 a year. Minor footbridge, handicap accessible trail areas, etc. The majority of trail maintenance and etc. is volunteer managed. Here in Maine, we have some very strong groups that help out with that. Plowing the parking lot would cost about $500 each winter. A key one is the boundary monitoring and maintenance, about $200 a year, and that's just to make sure that the area is properly marked. Signage and printing, again, with the concept of making this a destination point for hikers, about $150 a year to replace and install signage, print trail maps, etc. Liability insurance for the property, approximately $300 a year. So what we're looking at is $13,500 or about $1,350 a year in a 10-year time frame as far as expenses to the town to take ownership of this property. Let's talk about potential revenue. This is from a forestry survey that was done in 2012. I want to clarify that. As we all know, the pricing and how wood works is constantly changing. So this is based on 2012 data, the last time we walked the property. Selective cutting of approximately 30% would be available to us in 6 years. And you can see the math there.
The six-year number there is based on
Yeah,
4 years in front of that was about 08 when Hancock cut the property the last time, and we were looking at a 10 to 15 year cycle. It might have been the mid-2000s when Hancock cut that.
Right.
Cut that last.
So we're conservatively estimating about $22,500 per year would come back to the town. So let's look at the bottom line. Expenses of $13,500, income, again, with $22,500. The other thing I wanted to put in here, and I think this estimated tax per year is a little high. I think it's around $1,600 to $1,800 currently, because it's managed as forest land. But let's go with $24,000. So there is a cost to the town if you take out that tax revenue of about $1,500 a year for ownership of the property. That's our lovely poster, which I hope you've seen all around town. So that's the presentation. So if we could have the lights back up, and we'll turn this off. And John, do you want to lead us in a discussion?
So I think that I'd like to start just with a brief discussion with the board about the possibility of the town of Raymond assuming ownership, or whether we would move in a direction of having Loon Echo owning the property. if the town owned the property, we would need to put together a conservation easement that would delineate what we could and couldn't do on the property. And Loon Echo would hold that easement. That's the business that they're in. They have 6,500 acres in the lake region that they manage, some of which they own, I think most of which is under conservation easement. So if that's a route we would that's a step we'd have to take if the town took ownership. And there's plenty of templates for creating conservation easements.
Just as an FYI, the estimate of, again, negotiating an agreement, going through all that, the conservation stuff, would take 2 to 3 years to put that all together after Loon Echo actually has the legal authority to negotiate those types of things. Just to give you an idea of time frame.
So the alternative is, probably in either case, Loon Echo would close on the property, is how it would go, with a date of sometime in July or something. We would exercise, Loon Echo would exercise the option that they purchased to buy the property, and so they're either going to retain it, and we'd probably have, if we went that route, we'd probably have some kind of management relationship where we still had involvement and duties for some trail maintenance and certainly O&M. If we wanted to take ownership of it, then, as Sheila said, there'd be a process to create a conservation easement, and Loon Echo would gift it back to the town of Raymond, and under the terms and conditions of that gift would be that we'd have a conservation easement in place to protect the natural resources and attributes of the property. So, we talked about the other day at the Conservation Commission meeting or forest meeting, and recognize the town, we don't have a Parks and Rec department. Maybe we need one. That's a discussion that's probably 2 or 3 decades in the town of Raymond, but I recognize we may not be at a point where we could take it on. I'm open either way. I don't have a strong feeling either way. I don't have a mandate that we must own the forest project. We'll certainly have an involvement with it, and it'll be an asset for the members of the community for generations to come under either ownership model. But what we did think would be helpful would be to get some input from the town, and we talked about the idea of having some kind of straw vote, either at town meeting or perhaps in another venue. Town meeting would be good because we'd have a lot of ears and eyes on it at that time. And if we put a simple article together to have such a vote, we'd have a sheet that bulleted out the pluses and minuses of the 2 ownership options, so that folks could see what the benefits were and some of the costs were of either ownership model. So I'd be interested to hear the board's thoughts on the ownership options, if there's a strong feeling either way.
Anybody want to, Lonnie?
I'm on the fence a little bit with the town owning the land. I think that the land itself is beautiful. I've lived in that area for 20 plus years. I'm up at the top of on that rock face a couple, 3 times a month.
Great.
And
Yeah.
I think it's a great area. I definitely think that the expenses that you put forth that would cost the town was maybe half of what I feel it would really cost. If the town did own it, and I'm not really sure if it would be a benefit to us by owning it instead of a trust owning it and having it the same piece of it and not being liable for whatever happens on that land. But at this point, that's pretty much where I'm at. I mean, I have no issue with the 40K that has already been allotted for it, but the extra 10 kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth a little bit. But again, it's a great lot of land. So definitely to have it secured to some degree is a great thing, and I'm all for that. But
Great.
it's the pieces to get to that
To iron out.
kind of unsure of.
Yep, good input. Thanks, Lonnie.
Joe?
I'm pretty familiar with this property since
Yeah.
it's like in my backyard.
Mine too.
I agree with Lonnie. What's the benefit of the town owning it? If we're gonna own it, we're gonna assume the responsibility for maintenance and liability insurance, and if Blue Echo owns it, don't they take that on as part of their mission?
They do, and I think a short answer, and again, we need to develop these in bullet points for you, Joe, but if we owned it, we would take the timber harvest revenue. We could design.
And by the way, Hancock just logged that maybe 5 years ago, so you've still got another 20 years before you're gonna log that property. It's a long way from being ready.
We had it in, 08, I think, 07,
Yeah.
and a 10 to 15-year cycle is what we've seen. I mean, a 25-year cycle is obviously going to yield more. But the revenue from timber harvest would come to Raymond if we owned it. If town of Raymond owned it, we'd have a far better ability to create and agree on a conservation easement that gave us some flexibility of uses, perhaps, that were a little broader than what Loon Echo would hold on to if they owned it. If we wanted to have a piece of the lowland as a special horse riding, a rink or area, trail area, or maybe there's some clearing we want to do for some kind of recreation fields, that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. So we'd have some flexibility to create some different uses, probably.
That land is hunted pretty hard, and I don't think you're gonna wanna prevent any hunting from happening there.
We want to maintain and retain that traditional use for sure, Joe.
And as far as taking the 50,000, all you have to do is request it. Go to Nancy.
Yeah, that's
she'll-
not
she'll
us.
give it to you. You already got it. It's yours. You just need to ask for it. I agree with Lonnie. That extra 10,000 leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It was kind of said, okay, you give us 50, we're gonna raise the rest, and I think you've done a pretty good job. How much money has Loon Echo put into this thing?
Loon Echo as an organization doesn't put in
Right.
money. What they do is they fundraise. So if you look at the budget, all of those other grants is all from Loon Echo.
Right.
Filling it out, going after it. So basically, other than the 145 we've raised, they've raised everything else.
Yep.
Well, I mean, Land for Main Street, they do that. That's what
That's-
they do.
that's
their
right.
Yes.
job.
Yes.
Right.
But, I remember this discussion where, give us 50,000, we'll raise the money privately. And then when you come back and say, we just need another 10,000, that's just, it's like, here we go.
And we're already putting 50 into it,
Yeah.
so it's like, well, if you don't
I
put
mean, we're
another 10,
already
then
putting
it's a
in
waste.
10% on the purchase price.
Yep.
And now you want more, and then you're gonna come and say, well, if Raymond owns it, we need money to manage it, and how much is that gonna cost? And like Lonnie says, it's probably half of what it really is. So the town's gonna be on the hook to manage it at that point. And all these expenses continue to grow. And yet, in 2012, we were told, just give us this and we'll handle the rest. So that additional funding,
Yep.
if you have money in your conservation account and you want to spend that, no problem for me with saying do what you want with it.
Yep.
But coming from the selectmen contingency just doesn't sit well with me.
We hear you. I think, my only point was, and I went hunting, Sue had me trying to track down the minutes from the meeting where we discussed the 50, and I clearly remember discussion about a contingency of $10,000 if it was needed. We're not done yet. We're very close. I guess I'm bringing this up just as in consistent with that discussion that we had, that we may well need that 10,000 to bridge the gap. I'm hearing what you're saying, Joe and Lonnie, and I'm not going to go home crying tonight, but we did want to plant the seed that with 32K left to go and a pretty robust private sector contribution so far to the effort, that we saw the 10,000 as a way for us, for the town, to make an additional contribution to help close that gap as we get to the finish line. If we were to find ourselves needing to request that, would that request need to go to the budget committee or through both of you folks? The S board and the budget finance?
Meeting, it's got to go through both.
Yep, right.
How much do you have in your account right now?
I think I don't have a lot. I haven't been asking for money on the Raymond Conservation Commission budget. Typically, that's been small ever since we finished the open space plan.
But you get money from
tree growth, right? And
has anything come in?
I haven't checked with Nancy for probably 6 months. That's worth checking on, Joe. It's a good point. I think that of that 50, as I recall, I think 35 of it was from the Open Space Reserve Fund, and you folks were generous to come up with the idea of some other harvest money, I think, that was available to get us to 50. So
I think it's 30 and 20.
30 and 20. Okay, thanks, Mike. So we'll go sharpen our pencils, and you know, we'll be back with a formal request if the need is urgent, but we did want to share with you where we were and what the gap that remains is.
Now, I assume this land's still in tree growth.
This land is still in tree growth.
And if Luneco owns it, they're going to keep it in tree growth.
That's correct. I mean, the way it would go, if Luneco owned it, it would probably stay in tree growth.
Correct.
And what they do try to do and generally succeed with is making payments in lieu of taxes.
Right.
And so if Luneco was to own it, I think it would be unlikely, I'm not saying it would be impossible, but I think it would be unlikely that we wouldn't see any more tax revenue from it if they owned it. If Raymond owned it, obviously we wouldn't be taxing ourselves, I'm guessing, or maybe we do. I'm not sure how that works.
Technically, we do. Yeah. We tax everyone.
Well, you know, and I'd just like to add that I feel, as the individual that's been out pounding the pavement and talking to people here in town, we're going to make it happen. I'm never exactly sure what's around the next bend, but we're going to make this happen. It's going to happen. I'm going to tell you.
You have not hit the Rosewood Drive Association.
I know. But it's going to happen. And as far as the ownership issues I think we both mentioned earlier, Luneco is perfectly fine keeping it. I think it is just a good practice for it to be offered back to the community in which it resides. And again, I hear you on the numbers. It's all I could come up with, you know, and my lack of experience might be showing there a little bit. But again, there's still a definite plan to make this a destination point. So I don't want us to lose sight of that fact down the road, so that people would come to hike this area. And I'm hoping that's going to bring some more down that 302 corridor. So as we really get into it with trail maps and signage, I'm extremely optimistic that Raymond will have something to brag about down the road. It's going to take a while, because again, from here on in, we're going to have to, the Luneco and The Raymond Community Forest Committee is about 10 of us here in Raymond that have been working on this together. And we're gonna have to continue to fundraise, you know, to do all those other things. That 32,000 short we are right now just gets us ownership with all the, there's a lot of legal stuff you gotta do with this, and that's expensive. The survey thing is pretty costly. So that's what's left, you know, is all of that administrative stuff to actually get that deal signed. So we have to continue to fundraise to get things like the signage and all of those kinds of things, and that probably won't be happening for a couple of years. So again, I feel, I didn't think we could do it when we started, and I know we're gonna do it now, so.
We're gonna get there.
And I think Raymond and all of us that live here are gonna have something really to be proud of down the road, so. I really wanna thank you for your time. Are there any other questions? I know we've taken a lot of your time.
Anybody else?
Any other?
I'll throw out one comment. The only thing I didn't hear today is if the town owned it, that there's a management contract to run it at no cost to the town. I'm hearing you already talking about having to raise money to do everything else anyway.
Right.
So if you believe the benefit to the town is there for us to own it because it gives us more flexibility, it doesn't mean the town has to have expenses.
Keep talking, Mike.
If Loon Echo owns it, you gotta have a committee to run it. You gotta raise money to run it, right?
Right.
To do brochures.
Yep.
You're telling me Loon Echo doesn't put money in, they're just ownership. So if you gotta create a committee to work with Loon Echo, you can create the same committee to work with the town if you think it allows you more flexibility as the committee. Might not be you folks on the committee,
Right.
but if it was town ownership with zero expected money from the town except for a conservation committee, a tassel top type board, an official arrangement with a group that would manage it, that's, right? You're already gonna have to create a group to management. So I just, as you go away, think about that, because I didn't hear it, I throw it out there. I have no interest in managing it.
You don't have any spare time, Mike?
No, I mean, the town. I have no interest in managing it or that, which is what
you know-
we've heard. And it's the same reason that I didn't want to be on the application 2 years ago for the grant.
Yeah.
Same reason. However, you have brought up good points about the flexibility of town ownership versus Loon Echo ownership, so.
One of the things the board might consider is at least going forward with a discussion. So all of these things can be placed on the table. You know, we don't know where it could go if we don't sit down and talk. Again, totally non-binding, but sitting down with the appropriate people on both sides to look at what it would look like, what the possibilities might be, what the town concerns would be, you know, all those kinds of details. You know, I'm a firm believer that it doesn't hurt to talk. And again, you know, it might lead to nothing, or it might lead to something 10 years from now, who knows? But I think it would be, at least, speaking now as somebody from Raymond, and somebody who's not been through one of these processes, I'd like to see all of the facts and figures and all the detail on the table, and what are we talking about? What would it look like, and what would it really cost, and all those kinds of things. So that's something to consider, and maybe what we do is when we have the legal right to do so as Loon Echo, we can come back and talk a little further about that.
I think goes without saying.
Anybody
where's-
else from the board? Just a sec, John.
Yep.
Anybody from the public want to speak on this while you're here? Go ahead, John.
I'm still looking for a way to get the town, get the public input on it, and I'm hearing that we need clarity on cost benefit for both options, so that you folks and and us and the town can see a 4-bullet, 6-bullet thing under each ownership model. But at some point, we're gonna want, I guess that's what we'd want to get some feedback on, that we'd want the town to input on that, on the two.
John, isn't it a fiscal matter at some point that you have elected officials who make that decision? It's not a group hug type of decision to be made, because it's a town, the select board makes the decision on how much money to put into this thing and what risk they want to take. So you can get all the opinion you want, but ultimately
Right.
the decision has to be made here.
Yep.
As to how much risk
Benefit,
this
risk.
board wants to take.
Yep. Got it. I think it's good. I mean, I'm still hearing the need for the public's input, but I understand this is
Right.
it, but we got, presumably we'd have a forum of some kind that would be public hearing
Yeah.
on it, that would.
If you came up with a plan, I don't see why we wouldn't call a public hearing or
hearing on it.
something, and you could publicize it, and we can get some people here and hear about it, but, you know, that's when you would have a more defined plan as to the hows of a relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
And that probably isn't
Makes
gonna come
sense.
from us.
Makes sense.
It would be driven by a committee of folks who want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
This is
Thank you,
exciting.
folks.
This is
Thank
very
you very,
exciting.
very much.
It's a great place, a great resource. Hopefully we'll get things completed and get some trails wrapped up there, so more folks can have access. Thanks.
So the next item on the agenda is the Raymond Village Library presentation of certificates to supporters and donors. Emily, I see your name attached to this. Would you go up to the podium, introduce yourself, and lead us?
Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Allen. I live on Haydenbrook Road. I want to thank the Selectmen for this opportunity to use your forum to thank people for their donations. I'm just going to read this because I will just go off, and take 10 minutes to do this. This will be a lot quicker.
Emily, wait.
Uh-oh.
You said where you live, but
Yeah.
why are you here?
I am here because I'm the president of the Board of Trustees of the Raymond Village Library.
Thank
you,
you.
Mike.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. In order to offer exceptional educational and social opportunities for all, the Board of Trustees of the Raymond Village Library and our director must raise a considerable amount of money every year. In a situation where every small donation counts exponentially, larger contributions make a huge impression on the library and our community. As a 501c3, RVL is only as good as the people who donate their time, energy, and money to making it a success. And judging from our recent statistical growth, we have some very good donors. We would like to take the opportunity to honor 3 of these donors from the past year, whose generosity has enabled us to expand our programming offerings. As a result of their donations, our fiscal year-to-date adult programming participation is up 61% year over year, and we had over 700 people attend our children's summer reading program. So along with certificates of appreciation, we are including a beautiful PowerPoint presentation demonstrating some of the highlights of that program. And I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, all of Raymond adults and children here alike are grateful for your donations. We really couldn't appreciate it more. And that's my presentation. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to present the awards. The first person is Talani Taylor from Innovative Distribution Services. So I'll just present that.
Lonnie, I think you have to go up to the podium. Emily,
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes. And the next is to Kim Donnelly. I don't know if that's not Kim, then she wasn't able to show up, unfortunately. So Kim Donnelly from Gorham Savings Bank was also very generous with her donations, and basically sponsored our summer reading program this year. And then the other third person who is not able to attend is Tim Davison of Engineered Construction Services. And he, as well, was an incredible donation that really helped us out this year. So we really appreciate it and thank everybody very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Emily.
Very nice.
Anybody else from the library? I see other people sitting here. Want to say anything while you have the opportunity? You can give the library update for the select board meeting too, if one of you wants to do that while you're here.
But I'm ex officio, so I really am not.
Me to take the dog out.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do. No, I'm Elisa Gifford. I'm ex officio on the Raymond Village Library Board. And I want to reiterate what Emily has said, that we have had some amazing donors come forward this past year. I think Sally has a very good story about a gentleman in Florida who has never been a donor until this year. And he called and gave a very large donation, which enables us to not only heat the library for a year, but keep the electricity on for a whole year.
Wow.
And that was out of the blue, never donated before.
That's cool.
So we do have people coming forward after meeting Sally and coming into the library. So we want to thank everyone, no matter whether you give $5 or $5,000. You're important to us, and we are very grateful. So thank you.
Since we're doing library things. I'm Jessica Fay. I'm a former trustee of the Raymond Village Library, and I would like to build on what Elisa said, and that is that the donation didn't come out of the blue. What we did was we instituted a new fundraising tool, and I think it's really starting to pay off for the library. And I also want to remind people that the annual appeal is still going on. So please, RaymondVillageLibrary.org, you can donate online, you can send a check. Any amount is appreciated. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for the library while they're here?
I have a statement.
Go right ahead.
I think the Raymond Town Library is fantastic. It's been in the same spot for 30 years, if not longer.
Longer than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen you guys grow throughout the years. You're a great support for the town. You walk in there and it's just a great vibe. You know, you keep it real in that aspect. And I'll continue to help, throughout the years as long as I can help, because I think that it's for a great cause. So I appreciate you guys just as much as that you appreciate, us. So relationship that goes both ways is long lasting, so it's great. So please keep it up.
That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody here want to talk about stuff other than what we've just talked about?
Yes. Yes, I do. Jessica's there. I'm here. I'm Jessica Fay, Spiller Hill Road. I just wanted to take the opportunity. I know today is the last select board meeting before the caucuses, and since it's New Hampshire primary day, it bears reminding that in Maine we caucus. Republicans have their caucus on March 5th. Democrats have their caucus on March 6th. And Greens have their caucus at various different times, depending on where you live and what county you live in. So just a reminder that that's coming up, and everybody should go caucus for your presidential preference.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Greg Mayer, Raymond resident. I'm just here to hear further discussion of the last meeting and the discussion of the recreational park proposed in the Davison property.
Don Willard was going to update us when he got to his town manager comments, but Don, why don't you go ahead and do that now?
Okay, well, after further investigations, it does not appear as though that's going to go forward. So we were, talking to Mr. Davidson. We were looking at various, changes that could be made, but it now would appear that that's not going to be possible. That doesn't mean that we are ending the search for a recreational site. We're going to continue that and look at other potential properties, potentially working with neighboring communities, the range of options that might be out there. So if you know of any available properties that might be suitable, please contact us, let us know, but it does not appear that that particular North Raymond Road Davidson property is going to go forward. So that's now a closed issue.
We like having people come to the meetings.
Right.
It is nice to see
Well,
people.
it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, so.
We're not opposed to it, we just don't want it.
Well,
In your front yard.
that particular site's not going to work, but we will continue the search.
Okay, great. Then I'll reserve my comments.
Any other public comments, reserved or otherwise? Seeing none, selectmen comments?
I see on the agenda that Sue has the Republican caucus, time and place to be determined.
Yes.
It's Wyndham High School, Saturday on the 5th. Doors open at 8:30.
Okay, I was told Manchester.
Oh, Manchester School, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you are correct.
And the doors open at 8:30,
8:30.
but I don't know what time the meeting starts.
I think 9.
Yeah, so Marshall was trying to get that one.
Yep.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah, thank you. So I'll have to find out where the Manchester School is.
that's the one on your left. Off
Behind
Freedom.
Levinsky. Yeah, Levinsky's down by there.
Yeah, before Levinsky's on your left, where the flashing light is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll have to watch for it tomorrow.
Any other comments from the select board? Don?
Okay, lots of dates. So we have the confirmation of the dates for the upcoming regular meetings. The first one, which you've seen before, I think is March 8th. We're also talking now about having a workshop meeting at 6 o'clock prior to that meeting with our merit pay consultant, Don Tyler. And he's going to come and make a presentation at 6 and the regular meeting at 7. And then we have a meeting scheduled for April 12th, and then May 10th, maybe the new date.
May 10th, folks. That's the new date that wouldn't be on your calendars yet.
Yeah, I just put it on.
You good? Okay.
Okay, I guess we have a bunch of dates here related to the budget meetings, annual town meeting, and elections. So one that isn't on there is that the budget itself will be done, I'm saying it'll be done, it always does get done, by Friday at some hour, and will be shipped out electronically to the Board of Selectmen Budget Committee and posted to the website. So that'll be this Friday, the 12th. We have our first budget meeting with the Budget Committee and department heads, selectmen, on Monday, February 29th. I guess the caucuses have been covered, so I don't...
Would you like to say that in the Democratic caucuses? Since
Okay, the Democratic caucus is at 2 o'clock at Raymond Elementary School, and I'm confused about where the Republican caucus is, and I don't have the Greens here, but
It's
maybe
Manchester School,
Manchester School,
8:30. Where is Manchester?
okay.
The blinking
The
lights.
blinking light,
It's in Wyndham.
302 on your left.
Okay, and so if you want information, perhaps we can post that to our website.
Once I have all the information, I intend to.
Once we get all the information, we will post that right on the front page of our website if you want to know where the caucuses are. So then we have another budget meeting on Monday, March 7th, Budget Committee, Department Head, Selectmen. On Monday, March 21st, we have nomination papers available for local offices. We have on Tuesday, March 29th, a budget meeting, the final joint meeting, Budget Committee and Selectmen together. Then on Tuesday, April 5th, we have a Selectmen's budget vote on the municipal budget. On Monday, April 11th, the Budget Finance Committee vote on the budget. And then on Monday, May 2nd, we have nomination papers that are due back to the town clerk for local offices. Tuesday, June 7th, is our annual town meeting. And then we have Tuesday, June 14th, state primary and municipal elections. A lot of dates. And then one more date. Upcoming holiday schedule, Monday, February 15th is President's Day, so that will be the holiday.
Anything else to report, Don?
I think things are going really well, with the budget, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be in good shape with it on Friday. I don't know yet. You never know till you run the final tabulation and make the final tweaks, but that's the hope. And as I said, it's always an adventure as you work on that, coming up to the end of the day and then beyond the end of the day, and hopefully as close to the end of the day as possible, we'll get that out. Sometimes it's later than that, though. So that's the major project that's ongoing, and Friday.
Mike?
Thank you, Don.
Got a question down here.
Yes.
March 15th I had in my calendar for a workshop of some kind.
That's when we
Changed.
March 8th.
That was,
That's moved to
I
March
was
8th.
gonna have it on the 15th, but seeing that we couldn't get everybody there, I moved it to the 7th. I know you can't make it for that,
To the
Lonnie.
8th.
The 8th.
Or the 8th.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
8th.
Before the selectmen.
I made it
Yeah.
just before the
6 o'clock.
selectmen, so we didn't have to call a whole new meeting for everybody.
Right.
We weren't gonna be in full session, I think, and I also asked Don to get a draft out to
yes.
everybody prior to that, so you will see it prior to that. So if you have questions you want asked, if you want to send them
Sounds
to us.
great. Thank you.
Or if you want to participate by phone, you can.
I appreciate that, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Lonnie, do you have a warrant for us?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I would like to make a motion to accept treasurer's warrant dated 2/9/2016 for the amount of $162,188.24.
Second.
All those in favor? Anything else, Lonnie? Is that the only one?
That is the only one, sir.
So as soon as we get signatures,
I do have one request. If they can make the writing a little bit bigger on these warrants.
He just
Make
gets some reading
glasses,
glasses.
Lonnie. They make glasses.
so
I'm
Lonnie,
just saying.
so Lonnie, for that spiffy phone, you can get a magnifying app.
I'm gonna have to look into that one, Mike. Big one. It's called the old person app. Have you seen it? It's on my phone.
Are you serious?
Old person app right there.
Oh, it's literally called.
It's light and magnifying.
It has a light.
Oh my
and a
God.
Also, it
magnifying
uses the it uses your lens.
Look at that thing.
I gotta get one of those.
So a
That's
light
cool.
and a so you
Actually
use that
magnifies it.
Oldpersonapp.com.
for
Oh man, now I
to
gotta
look
tell.
at a menu and stuff like
I
that.
gotta get picture, I have trouble seeing stuff.
All of us, Joe?
It's old person app.
That's it.
That's too funny.
It's a magnifier, a light, and you can actually take notes too. It's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is it a free one?
Lonnie
or-
didn't sign
Dang.
it yet.
I could've gone on
Not only
Shark
could he
Tank
not
and
read
done
it, he
that.
didn't sign it.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Can I have a message, motion to go into executive session, please?
It's not that easy.
He does that.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session under Title I MRSA, Section 405-6A, to discuss town manager's annual review.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, now. I have a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
I am picture confused.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor? Thank you all.